Frank, do we know better after last night what AEW fans like about AEW? It's a company that has some mixed signals in terms of the metrics. There's a lot of things going well, and we'll see with the new TV deal, but we've seen record low viewership. Some of that's attributed to a smaller cable universe of homes having access to it, but that argument falls apart when you see WWE's programs having steady or, in a couple cases, increased viewership despite the drop in cable. So AEW doesn't have the same enthusiasm for their fan base on a wide level, but the people who the attendance at pay-per-views and the enthusiasm of those crowds typically has been a strength of AEW. You attended AEW Forbidden Door last night. What did you learn from being in that crowd for 5-6 hours that AEW fans like most about AEW as it was presented last night?
I think, to be honest with you, it's just a matter of liking good pro wrestling. I mean, it seems like we're getting to the point where the crowds are getting whittled down to the people that enjoy what AEW puts out, quite frankly. And we know that the hallmark of what they put out is just good wrestling matches. And that's what last night was. I mean, it was a collection of really good matches. It wasn't anything particularly bad. I mean, you guys went over it on the round table today, so we don't have to relive every match, but it's just basically that. But I'm not sure that, you know, I'm not sure that that calls for a really hot crowd. You and I were talking throughout the show, and not one match, save for the main event, that they were really hot for. It was more like,
Yeah.
okay, this is cool. Yeah, we cheer for this. All right, we boo that. Okay, but there wasn't really an investment. Okay, is
So
what I'm getting at.
so let's kind of extrapolate from that and isolate the notion that this is an annual pay-per-view that strays a bit from the normal format,
Sure.
because we have uh, a a pay-per-view that by definition is featuring feuds that are meant to be novel but not necessarily well built up in a traditional way on cable. And I think we saw the results of that. A crowd that was not disinterested, but I my analogy, Frank, was it was like a mid-season second period NHL game against
Mhm.
a non-division rival, but you still wanted your team to win. Like, you're
Yep.
there, you paid your money, you like the NHL. It's a good game, but it's not a playoff game. It's not a late season game against a rival. It had that vibe. It's like, oh, if you're in the Eastern Conference, you don't see a Western Conference team much. Oh, this is kind of fun. I get to see us. I get to see Connor McDavid, and I don't normally get to as an Islander fan. That's what it was. It was like, oh, novel, but that emotional passion wasn't there. That's actually a conversation for another day in a
Sure.
way, because Forbidden Door, but we knew that going in. But what we can extrapolate, and you were right there in amongst those people who like AEW, um, what what did they react to that Tony Khan can learn from and build on in terms of stars, finishes to matches, certain finishes work, didn't work. Certain, yeah, were there groans or positive outbursts from the fans where you're like, that's a good sign. That's what AW fans are looking for.
Well, I mean, most of the energy was for Swerve, right? Most of
Yeah,
the energy was for him. And, when you build the way you built that up, you're going to get that, and Swerve is cool to begin with. So that
yeah.
certainly helps. And Osprey is over. So that's going to help. So, when you tell those stories, rather than just, throwing matches together, thinking like, okay, this is so and so against so and so from CMLL. Yeah, it's going to be a great match, but does anybody really care? Like, how many people from AEW watch CMLL? I don't.
Right.
I don't know if you do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know if people, and I can appreciate a guy like Echicero, all those guys like that. But if I'm not watching them on a regular basis, there's not going to be a wow factor while I'm watching it.
So when
So
you say they reacted to Swerve, Frank, did they react to him because there was a story and it was the main event and the title was on the line? Or did they react to him because they like Swerve? For instance, what if Bryan Danielson or Hangman Page was in that spot? It was, to me, like, what I'm curious about. I think, no question, Swerve Strickland and Will Ospreay are over with the AW fans who are going to attend a pay-per-view. Some traveled, some
yeah,
it's local. They're
yeah,
over. Tony Khan's made a good choice. It's a success. Those two are popular. They're going to split off and fight heels now for the most part. Well, who knows? I mean, for the most part, maybe not imminently in every case. But my curiosity is last night's show and the crowd reaction an indictment on the notion that AEW fans want the novelty of non-conference matchups, so to speak, to extend the NHL analogy? Or did the crowd
Mhm.
reaction, it's polite, they don't rebel against it, they were more into it than a random WWE crowd would have been, but actually what AEW fans want is storylines, stakes, and clashing personalities who they know well, where there's a culmination on pay-per-view based on a story told on TV. What other matches are consistent with that framing, pro and con, in terms of crowd reaction? The matches that had more story behind them last night, did they regardless of match quality or novelty, were they the ones where fans were most invested?
Definitely the latter. Definitely the matches that had storyline behind it. I mean, you had Danielson and Shingo, and I think because that was the Owen Cup, there was some stakes in that, so people were into that. Um, you and I were texting during the Tony Mina match, and because there was story there, they were invested in that. They were invested in the other women's match, Mercedes and what's her name? Oh, Stephanie. Okay,
Stephanie Victor, yeah.
because yeah, because there was stakes involved in those matches, and I really think that that's what people want. I think that people want matches to be for something rather than just you know yeah this like I'll play to your straight. Yeah, the Rangers versus the Wild. Like yeah, it's a great game, and I enjoy it being a Ranger fan. But Rangers versus the Wild in January is not going to be it's going
It's
to be
not deeply
whatever.
personal to you. Yeah. Yeah.
Right,
It's another
right,
game. It's one out of, yeah.
right. Between
So
you and I, it's personal.
yeah, exactly. So now let's do another example here. The Young Bucks and Okada. They did comedy. We had
Yep.
in the middle of a fight with no stakes
Mhm.
other than the thrill of victory and the negative defeat, and hopefully the inherent desire of these athletes to want to win, not lose, baked into the narrative structure of pro wrestling. We had
Yep.
Matthew Jackson putting on headphones in the middle of the match and Okada dancing for comedy, even though we couldn't hear the music. Did the fans like that? Did they laugh? Did they find that kind of fun? Or is that an example of AW not, and we talked about this with TNA 15 years ago. You need an identity. You can't be all things to all people and expect to grow. That's an argument that I made and others made.
Yep.
Did that stray from what you think these fans who attended a Forbidden Door pay-per-view full of wrestlers who weren't on TV 4 months ago and won't be on TV 4 months from now in a lot of cases, did that work or not work? Is that something AW fans like about AEW?
It did not work. I mean,
Okay.
a small portion of the fans are into that because wait, you got some people that are going to eat everything up that AEW feeds them, and you know that, and I know that. But it was a small portion. It was not, what's the comedy crap? I mean, the people that are into that, they enjoyed it, but it's a small portion. It's not a large portion of the audience, and I don't think people coming to these shows want to see that. They want to see stories. They want to see stakes. They want to see stuff that they're invested and built up on towards TV to get that payoff, when they pay however much money for a ticket to show up in person.
So then we have, and this runs a little counter to the case that we've been making, Tony Storm and Mina Shirakawa. Talk about the crowd reaction during that 11-minute match, but then also what happened afterwards with Mariah May. Did they react more to the angle afterwards than the match? And if so, where does that fit into the idea that the fans aren't into the Young Bucks Okada comedy stuff, but they were into that more than what was a good match with Tony Storm and Mina Shirakawa?
I mean, I hate to speak with a dirty mind, but when you're going to see what's going to happen with three women at the same time, and
Yep.
you got a lot of dudes drinking beer in the crowd, you do the math, okay?
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
I'm just being honest. I'm not trying to be dirty and
Absolutely.
picky.
I
I'm
kind
just
of thought
being
that would be the
honest.
answer. Yep. So
So yeah, go ahead.
So another example, Shingo and Danielson. That was a really good match.
Right.
Um, how did that? But Shingo isn't. I mean, he's familiar to a lot of people in that building. But you
Sure.
poll a million people watch Dynamite, a lot of people couldn't pick him out of a lineup and maybe have heard his name, but can't place him. So how that was, but that was arguably the second best match of the night. Depending on what
Sure.
you look for in wrestling, there's some contenders for that. So how did they respond to that? Because again, when we're asking what do AW fans like about AEW, do they like Bryan Danielson? Do they like Danielson in good matches? But was that a top level response to Danielson, or I'm into the match because it's good, but it's not really what I thought we were signing up for when we got Danielson and AEW on the roster. So where did that match fit in that scheme?
Somewhere in the middle, somewhere in the middle. And I think with Danielson too, and I talk about this a lot when I go to UBS Arena, because you got a lot of Islander fans. They do the yes, yes, yes after goals. So I think a lot of them enjoy doing that. So we got a lot of that last night. But I think the fact that they like Danielson and they like good matches, I think that carries the load a little bit. It's not hot, it's not rabid, it's not the main thing that they're going for, but it's one of the side dishes. It's one of the good side dishes that they enjoy. It's not the main course, but it's the fried cauliflower, or you name your tasty side dish.
Thank you. Yes. Um, so Orange Cassidy is a bit of a character, obviously,
Mhm.
but and has the shtick with the slow motion, casual persona, and all that. But he also has had a track record of really good matches that just stand on their
That's
own, regardless of his character. Zack Sabre Jr., very different style, quite a well-known name among people who follow wrestling outside of the United States, but not a household name with, say, the WWE audience and a good chunk of AW audience. So that was a different style match. It was 17 minutes. It was on the longer end of the shows. Do AW fans like that style, being exposed to a high-end version of that style in that building last night?
I think it's a mix. I really think it's a mix because Zack Saber matches are not for everybody, and you need the
Yep.
right
Yep.
character. And I figured Orange would be the right character for that, but I don't think it was enough. I don't think it was enough for people, and it could have been just the people that came to the building. It's hard to say. Maybe you get a different, 8,000 people that show up, and they love it. But it's Zack Sabre Jr. Match is just tough on crowds in general. So they liked it, but it was more like,
Yeah.
And your description on the round table was perfect.
So then we have the Learning Tree match, which was a mix of things because it's Jericho comedy. I know you don't want me to retire. I'm from here. I grew up here. All that. So you have that stuff, but you also had um, a Haas fight with Jeff Cobb and Samoa Joe. So what do you extrapolate, to use the word of the video here, from that match in terms of what do AW fans like? Because that was a match. Even though it wasn't very super long, it had a lot packed into 14 minutes in terms of different style and personality matchups.
I extrapolate that a lot of people didn't care, including myself, because that was the match that I chose to get up and do the father duties and the husband duties and get my wife a drink and shirts for the kids.
Gotcha.
And
Yep.
I'm
That
telling you, I shared a lot of sentiment with people walking in the building. I heard people, one guy said to me, I don't care about Jericho. That's why I'm up now. And I'm like,
interesting.
I'm with you.
So let's jump to the main event. In particular, we talked about Swerve and Osprey being over in the stakes, and it's the main event. That's when the crowd really came alive. You texted me and said that by a
Yes.
wide margin, that was the most into the show they were, even compared to MJF's ring entrance earlier, right? At the start of the
Yes.
main show.
Although the biggest pop of the night was when they
Yeah.
finally turned on the Tron overhead the arena. All right.
Yes.
Is it's a problem. And I texted you
Yeah.
about that. When you can't, people in the 200s and the 300s can't see the video board by the entrance. When they finally replicated that and they finally showed the match, that got the biggest pop. So
Yeah. Understandably so. You pay big money. You don't want to be left out of that stuff.
correct.
So my final question for as far as this goes, the specifics go, and then we'll close with just a broad closing statement. When the screwdriver got introduced by Don Callis, did AW
Yeah.
fans, as in your assessment, we talked about this on the VIP roundtable last night. Did the AW fans say, "Oh, this is when things get interesting"? Boo! No, don't do it. Or did they groan, roll their eyes, and say, "Hey, we had a good match going. Now you're introducing some shenanigans and storyline stuff that save that for WWE. We're AW fans for something else." Which was it, or was it a blend?
The latter, more the latter. They
A
did not
blend.
react to the screwdriver spot.
Okay.
No, it was not a blend. It was the latter. People,
Yep.
they did not buy it. Maybe there was some port. There were a couple of portions of groans, but overall, for the most part, people just didn't buy it. They're like, we know that Osprey's not doing this. So it was just kind of a checkout at that point. Like, come
Interesting.
on, what are you doing? Yeah, but at least I will say at least after that they cleaned it up and they did a clean finish, which I thought was the right way to go. But it was unnecessary. The screwdriver spot was completely a waste of time.
Yeah. So big picture, we just talked about this for more than 12 minutes. What do AW fans want? Summarize it in a sentence or two. Like if Tony Khan goes, you're on an elevator, it's about to open. Tony says, "Hey, you're with the torch. What should I be doing more and less of?" What's based on your experience last night specifically? What is that?
I think they want matches that have stakes, matches in which they have storylines that they can invest, that they've been taken on a ride, based on promos or backstage stuff, matches, whatever, that it's going to culminate in a satisfactory payoff. We don't need the shenanigans. We don't need the junk. All right. We don't need, high spots. We just want good professional wrestling, and we'll appreciate it if we get a satisfactory ending, whatever the ending that might be, someone winning, someone losing it, it doesn't necessarily matter as long as their time is respected. That's what I'm trying to say. As long as their time is respected in watching the run up to these big matches.
And for texting with you and listening to you and listening to the crowd too, what they want are stars who can
Yes,
wrestle well in matches that matter with finishes that don't look too much like what they think WWE does too much of.
100%, 100%. We
Yep,
don't
I
need
agree.
that. That's a reason why people turned away and started watching AEW in 2019. We don't need to go
Yep.
back to that.
Frank, tell people about your podcast that you do, Pro Wrestling Then and Now.
Absolutely. So I'm going to be doing an episode this week. I'll be working with John Mazzera, longtime PWTorch.com contributor, and we're going to be looking back at King of the Ring 1994, staying with 1994 wrestling as I've been doing all year, the birth of the King of Hearts. So it'll be fun to discuss that, and kind of fits, 25-year anniversary of his unfortunate passing, and we're in the middle of the Owen Cup. So it's kind of nice to go back and look at a time where it all began, and also nice to read like your newsletters and read like your ratings and matches of what you thought. It's really one of the fun parts of doing that podcast. So check that out. It should be dropping on Wednesday.
So far this year, you've looked at the 1989 Royal Rumble with a 2-hour review. You have a rotation of co-hosts, and you also had New Japan Wrestle Kingdom 8,
Yes.
1994 Royal Rumble, the WrestleMania 10 card, Spring Stampede from WCW 94, and Slamboree. So if people go VIP, those are waiting for you. There's a bigger back catalog than that waiting for you. So we encourage you to go VIP, pwtorch.com/go VIP. Frank, where are you off to?
I am off to the Dominican Republic.
Excellent. You are a pilot
Yes, I am.
for people
Yes,
who
I am.
don't know and don't recognize the stripes. So you are waiting. You had some time to talk with us on your way from home to the airport, and that's why you're in a car. For people wondering what the setting is all about. We're glad you made it through traffic and were able to spend time with us.
Absolutely. A pleasure to do it, Wade, and appreciate you having me today.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Glad you could do this. Thanks everybody for watching, and please like, please comment, please subscribe to our channel. All of that helps us reach a bigger audience and helps YouTube's algorithm send us onto suggestion or suggest this video to other people. So if you like what we do your part and comment, subscribe, and give us a thumbs up. Thanks everybody.